And our mission at the History Center is the preservation, education, and promotion of Clinton County's history and genealogy for everyone. So that's you guys in this room. Thank you so much for being here tonight. The sports speaker series really was born out of our Beyond the Scoreboard exhibit, which is currently on display at the History Center. And you'll notice in the handout that you received tonight, everyone that attended can have free admission to that exhibit. But I wanted to have an opportunity for our community to discuss the value of sports, the historic point of view of sports, and everything through the lens of Clinton County. So we've been at this a couple of months, and we have a few more planned. I'll get into that towards the end of the evening. But we have a great lineup tonight, and very excited to hear what these gentlemen have to share with us. Our MC for the evening is Mark Huber, the sports editor for the Wilmington News Journal, and he has been a wonderful co-conspirator for this program. So if you don't know anything about the History Center, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have been in existence for 76 years. So we continue to try to meet our mission and serve the community the best that we can through opportunities such as this. If you were a member, you got in free tonight, so thank you for your support. And if you're not a member, I would encourage you to consider becoming one. An individual is only $25 a year, and a family is $35 a year, so that's super cheap. And you get to have opportunities such as this and other events that we have throughout the year to benefit from those. So without further ado, if you please give a round of applause to our speakers and to Mark, we will get this kicked off. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Tonight was one of the first ones that we looked at having here, and I think the lineup we have is, as Shelby said, this is one I think where we probably can have 3 or 4 hours, and these guys can tell us some stories. Now, they did admit back in the back that maybe not all the stories would be true, but some of you can, let us know whether they are true or not. But that's just the way sports and stories go. John, you concur with that? Yes, sir. So we have Mike Big Daddy Wilson, who is here. We have Bill Anders, and we have Andy Old. Now, and I'm sure we'll get into this more, but Mike and Bill would have been going at it at the same time, although never against each other. Andy came along much later, but they still all have that one common thread where football has been such a big part of their lives. And I know that as we hear their stories and recollections from tonight, we will understand, why football has been so important to them. So I'm just going to ask each of you a question. We'll start. Everybody will answer the first question, and then I'll have another question. Then we'll open it up to the audience if anybody out there has any questions. And so I would say if any of you guys are a little bit leery about somebody in the audience and their question, you'll just have to think about that and how you want to answer it. But then at the end, we'll ask them to give us a story, maybe 2. And I'm sure we'll enjoy them whether they are true or not, but I think they can probably all be pretty honest and give us some pretty good stories as well. So we'll start here with Andy. Tell me about just what it was like growing up in Clinton County and playing sports. You would have been late 60s, early 70s, kind of in that young time of your life?
Yeah, born in 62, so my name would be good?
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
All right, well, so I was born in 62, which means that I graduated in 1980, but I come from a family of 7 siblings, 7 of us. Mom and dad had 7 kids. I was number 6 out of 7, 3 older brothers and 3 sisters, and I have 1 younger sister, Maria, and everybody was into football. So whether I wanted to play football or not, I didn't have much of a choice. I was going to be a football guy. And I would love to have been a basketball guy. I tried, Butch. I tried to be a basketball guy. I ended up being a baseball guy for Ron Ruddick. But football was kind of the thing to do at the time. And it was a relatively new game for East Clinton. We were a little late on the scene. For many years, East Clinton didn't have their own field. I think they came to Wilmington College and maybe we played games. I'm not exactly sure. But I did have, I had 3 other brothers that all played. And, so those guys in front of me were playing. My dad got injured at work, so he was disabled, and his full-time disabled job was the manager for the football team. So my dad spent a lot of time at practice, and then so consequently I became a football player. And I was a junior high player, played for a guy named Russ Sharp, go way back and played for Mr. Sharp, and not too many people knew it like nobody did, but I was really petrified of playing football. I was afraid to hit. I was the guy that when the people got to the pile, I would go up and grab the pile, and I'd reach in and I'd pull the ball out. Of course, young guys didn't think you could take the ball away from them like that. Well, I was real good at that. Until one day, in an 8th grade game in junior high, East Clinton Field, it finally all came together. I hit a guy, a really nice tackle, and drove him back and dumped him in the backfield. And I didn't even realize what happened. And Russ Sharp pulled me out at the end of the game, and he said, "I want you to see Andy Olds here, the way he tackled that guy." And just what he told me inspired me, and I never forgot it. That's really pushed me into high school football at East Clinton. So that's how my career started. And we started playing in 4th grade, but then we decided 4th grade was too young, so we couldn't play. So I started playing in 5th grade probably. So that was pretty much how I got started in football.
Now, Bill, we'll take you from just growing up, and you probably did play football, not organized, but there probably always was a game at some point that, I remember right, even some of maybe the Samina and Wilmington people kind of got together to just...
I don't remember any of the Wilmington people ever. We had enough Samina nuts out there playing full tackle football with not a single pad on in the back of Melvin's funeral home. So every time you got tackled, what you see is the funeral home up there. And I'm really encouraged to make you want to go run that ball again. And it was a cow pasture, and it had potholes, everything in it. And we played it up until the police made us quit playing because we broke Ralph Hammock's leg in 2 places, and they said, "You guys are too rough. You got to quit playing on it." So we tried to turn it into a softball field, but it was too rough. You couldn't even feel the ground ball in the thing. So when I got to Ohio State and learned how to put all the pads on, first thing I noticed was that was a whole lot easier than playing football in Milton's funeral home back home. It was not near as rough. So from that point on, no problem I had. But
growing up, you played everything but football.
yes, basketball, baseball, a facsimile of track, if you want to call it that. And it was the difference between us kids being juvenile delinquents and decent kids. Because we always had the basketball to go play. If it wasn't at Phil Snow's, it was in the gymnasium or somewhere else. But we always had a game of basketball going somewhere, and it kept us off the streets and out of trouble. So it was a good growing up time. Plus it was a time you didn't have to worry about where your kids were, whether your house was locked, who was kidnapping who. We never worried in about that. We'd just wait till our mother stepped out and hollered, "Time to come home," and we'd all go.
So you listened to Mom, but maybe not the police so much when they tried to...
When Mom spoke, I listened. I did whatever she said. Mom was 5'10", 240 pounds. Brother, when she told you to do something, you better do it. She was a toughie.
Mike Wilson, how did growing up in Wilmington influence your athletic career?
Well, I think it gave me a really good start. Because of my upbringing and depending on God throughout my upbringing, church, also depending on Him for my success. But I have to give a lot of credit to my dad, Junior Wilson. He was an entrepreneur here, and he had 4 or 5 different businesses going on, and he instilled a work ethic in us, and applied that to football. I remember starting out, I was at Denver Park in recreational football, then junior high, and then I was coach, probably one of the best coaches that I was able to be under D1 this past year. But he instilled another aspect of football as far as you represent the uniform that you put on and do your best at all times. But you're from a small town that goes back to elevation. The right attitude, you can get the right altitude. But you put something in, you get something out. But I enjoyed playing ball, especially in high school for the team I did. Because we had outstanding teams. When the junior year, we won win from Jimmy Dixon, beat us out from Hillsborough. That was a perfect season. But just enjoy being raised up in Wilmington and be able to elevate as far as my talent. Able to go to almost college, and it just small town values really pay off. Big city, you get lost in that shuttle. Small town values bring you down to earth, that you know what's real and what's not real. Once you find that out, apply yourself, be surprised how far you can go.
Now, each of you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe expand somewhat. Bill, we'll start with you. Who was an influence that maybe helped keep you on the right path athletically, or maybe football? I know you mentioned, Tiger Allison when you got to Ohio State, but who was are a couple of influences from your athletic career?
There was really only one sports influencer, other than my dad. Everybody's dad is an influence on them. And he worked with me day and night to make me a better ball player or player in sport. But Buck Carter, the coach at Sabina High School, was definitely the influence and was a tremendous influence. His character was always calm and deliberate, so you calmed yourself on the practice field of the basketball court. You didn't get out of hand. And if you did, Buck Carter would straighten you up right quick. So you didn't get out of hand with him. And he taught you a routine of practice, a mindset is what I should say, of practice, that you put 100% into it, and you keep at it until you can say you put 100% into it. So big influence at the time, all the way up, and even through college until I met Woody Hayes. Buck Carter was the influence in my life, and he also kept me out of trouble.
Andy, how about you?
I'd have to say a combination of my brothers and then my high school coach, Terry Fouch. After my senior year, my brother was already at West Point. and you know, I wanted to go to West Point too, but I didn't study, so my grades were poor. So the only way I could go to West Point was go to the prep school. So by the time that we got our prep school paperwork in and sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey, I was the first alternate out of 500 people. So I said, man, you know, something's going to happen to these 500 people. One of these guys is going to back out. It's got to happen. So I didn't find out until August and I didn't get in. So it was too late to start school. So I worked at a factory. I worked at Blanchester and worked for Milcron there, where if your last name was Olds and you worked in the town of Blanchester, they weren't too kind to you. We had a big run with Blanchester, so I got made fun of every day, ridiculed, and my mom got me a job, $3.15 an hour, until the wintertime happened. I was driving from Sabina in my '69 blue Plymouth with no hubcaps, and had a good 8-track player in there, that's about it. And one day it was snowing so bad that East Clinton called off school. And I said, my goodness, if it's not safe enough for the kids, I surely can't drive to work. So I stayed home. So the next day I went to work, and I said, Andy, he said, you can go home. I said, why? He said, well, we're gonna fire you. So I got fired. And I didn't last. Mom was disappointed. But then the next year, after a 7 year, Coach Fouch, Terry Fouch went to Capital. He was on a national championship team at Capital. He introduced me to his head coach, was Gene Slaughter. And I can remember sitting in Gene Slaughter's office in July. And Coach Fouch sitting next to me and says, Coach Slaughter, you'd like to play linebacker here at Capital. And at the time, we had a 5-man front, which means you only played 2 linebackers. He said, we've got 16 linebackers already, and you're number 17. We really don't need you. And I said, I'm thinking about I'm not going back to that factory. I'm not. So I'm in. I want to do this. I said, okay. But again, my grades were so bad, I had to take 2 classes in the summertime in a program called Foundations. English and speech. You got it every day for 6 weeks, and you had mandatory tutors in the evening both times. 35 people in class. I finished first in English and second in speech. And so I got in. And the freshman football players came in first. There were 52 of us freshman football players. We had to come in a day early. Gene Slaughter, who coached with Woody Hayes, put us all in line. He says, boys, he said, I want you to look left and look right. There's 52 of you here. And in 4 years, there's probably going to be 12 of you left. And I looked left, I looked right, and I think, man, I don't have to be first. I just got to be number 12. That's all you do. You know what? I made it. And, but yeah, Terry Fouch had a lot to do with that. I know him being a Capital guy. And to this day, I've taken guys at the Capital, and I've gotten into Capital. So he's very influential to me.
All right, Mike, you talked about your dad and you talked about Okie. You want to expand on their influence on you and how it shaped you to be the football player that you were?
The work ethic, especially from my dad, he really something. He didn't have a high school education, but I think in the late 50s, early 60s, he probably mastered to learn about just about different hustles that he had. If he went to school and don't know what might happen to him, but then slow down to sometimes when you go up the ladder, you forget those that forget it. And usually he died at 43. So the next coach, Waddell, was a family man. He was basically a farmer. And if you're a farmer, you know how to pray to the Lord and ask for help with those seeds. You plant seeds in the ground, but the Lord brings the sunshine and the rain, and usually give you a decent crop. Same when he was coaching. You plant the seeds right, water, put the sunlight on, encourage it, you get a crop. So that's what I appreciate about about Coach Waddell. Really cared for all the ball players. Each one of them had a special place in our heart for him. But I look at my brother's Hall of Famer here, one college basketball player. He passed on a year ago over in France. But the same kind of attitude flowed with all of our family, even though mom and dad split up, he still had the drive to finish the career and graduate from one college here. And that helped me get through the degree. Lord knows I graduated from Tom Island instead of old Lord that said Tom Island. So I made it through, but it was rough. As far as football, he taught me to go the extra, put a little extra in. Sometimes you have to put a little sauce that you have that apply yourself. If you want to go higher, if you want to be average, you be average. But if you want to really go to another level, you got to go to another level yourself. As far as working out, get your body prepared, and doing extra. Can't get there by hope it's going to happen. You got to put in the effort. Facebook makes hot state great, makes schools. They live in the weight room. They get talented. Bring talent. Put talent and strength together. We really have something. So just forcing them to start off in life, get aggressive, and knowing how to apply yourself. Get an opportunity. Sometimes you create your own opportunity. If you hone your skill, the old folks say if you're sharp enough, you're not sharp enough. You get a cut when you need to cut. So we just thank both of them for really shaping my life. And shooting the air of my area in the right direction. And always through right, I ended up hitting the mark that I wanted to hit.
Now, Mike, go ahead and keep the microphone, because I'll ask you the next question. You, after Wilmington, went to Dayton, and then played professional football for a lot of years. When at that time, professional football, big deal. Don't get me wrong, but it you know, probably put your body through a lot of wear and tear that maybe, I don't know, wasn't worth it. I mean, it certainly didn't have the safeguards that it has today. Why keep playing football for so long? What was it about that you just said, hey, I want to keep doing this until I can't do it anymore? Because you played until you were, what, 36, I think?
Yeah. Well, I just had the zeal as an athlete to keep playing. I have this Cincinnati almost 3 years, and then started bouncing around the NFL, Buffalo, Kansas City, and then I got a chance to go to Canada. And when opportunity arises, usually in football, you got to take it if you want to keep playing. And the only reason I could really keep on sitting right over here, probably the best thing in my life, and I'm very sure she really held up the home front, take care of the kids and the household and stuff while I was out gallivanting around the country. But I made a little money, and I played till I knew it was time for me to come home. I remember I was at Kansas City, I went to Hamilton, and ended up making the All-Star in the East and went out West. I got to be best offensive lineman there for 3 years. And I got to go to Ryan and make a whole bunch game needs you, and you still play. I had a friend named Ron Hesse, who played, where he played at somewhere in Louisiana. And he called me up and said, "Hey man," said, "you get money way out here in California, you better come on out here." They seen playing going on when I did with Hugh Campbell, Coach Evans, and Coach Houston in the World League. And but I played till I got that my sister, and I was able to do that. And I don't know, some might say I stayed too long, but stay long in the game, as long as you exist in the game. The game will tell you when it's time to pick. That you know you got anymore. So, especially I had suffered through a couple of injuries. Especially in Everton, I locked up defensive end, linebacker blitz, still him blitz, ran to the back of the defensive end. And I was locked up and sounded like somebody shot out of the stands. And my partner said, "Team, snapped and down on me." So I got to think, right then, it's time to come on. So, but anyhow, I just, like I say, you go to the game, tells you it's time to quit if you got the opportunity. All the guys that don't stay in shape and unable to play, they know that they're reminded this time you need to go home. If you still play, still operate, you want to do that. But like I said, the game will tell you when it's time to go.
All right, Bill, grab the mic there if you would. So Sabina, as I think most everybody in the room knows, did not have football when Bill Anders was in high school. And everything else, Bill was pretty good at everything else, on a lot of successful teams. What made you, or what do you think made somebody else say, "Hey, this guy that's never played football, let's go to maybe the best football program in the country, and let's give this guy who's never played before a chance"?
That's probably the most often asked question that I've heard in my whole life. What made me think I could do such a stupid thing? And actually, thinking about it in all these years, I would give the quick answer, and the quick answer is still about as true as it can be. There was nothing in my head to make me think I couldn't do it. I had determination to go play, but it was, in actual fact, the whole thing was an accident to start with. I had a baseball scholarship, but it didn't start till the spring. So I had the fall and winter quarter with nothing to do as far as sports go. So I just thought, well, I like football, I'll go play football till the spring baseball season starts. I had no idea that I was going to the biggest school in the whole country, play for the meanest coach that there ever was in the whole thing. And you can say that stupidity is not a good thing, but in my case, it was a good thing. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was about to try to do had never been done. And I didn't learn that for a couple of years until a coach one day came up and asked me, said, "What are you doing out here anyway?" Said, "We don't allow people to play that have never played this game. How'd you get here?" And that started a series of questions as what made Woody let me play, because they don't do it. Nobody's ever done it. Other than kickers, they don't let position players go without previous experience. So Woody saw something that he thought I could do, I guess. So I asked him, what position should I try out for? I didn't even know what position it was, but I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to catch football. So he said, "You look like an end," so I tried out for him. And nothing in my mind detoured me. Starting with the first day when I opened up the locker and and didn't have a clue where all those pads were. I had to sneak a peek here, sneak a peek there just to get dressed. Didn't lace up anything, didn't tie anything. I can still remember running out on the practice field the first day, wondering how these guys play this game. I couldn't raise my arm up, I couldn't see above my head, couldn't catch the ball except with one hand, and went that way for almost a month. The other thing I didn't understand was the coaches would ask me, they like to intimidate. I'm sure Andy's used this tactic. They put me over and said, boy, had you ever played this game before? And I would say, no, I haven't.
Never heard that answer.
No, and they thought I would be a smart aleck. I'm sure Andy would too. It never occurred to me that nobody knew that I hadn't played football. And actually, the only one that knew it, well, I should say the only two, Woody Hayes was the only one that knew I'd never played it. And the guy in the locker next to me, because he looked at me and said, you ever played this game before? Because he saw me trying to get dressed. Where anything went. So the whole thing led up to, I can do this without any doubt in my mind. There was a few setbacks that I had to overcome. One was the first thing with the pads. But I got over that. Equipment manager felt sorry for me. He came over and asked me, he said, you ever played this game before? I said, no, I haven't. He said, well, I believe you. Come with me. And he went in and showed me how to put all that stuff on. The second obstacle that I came to was I go out there and there's two high schools competing for the same job. There's two high school All-Americans and their coach, Tiger Ellison, come from Middletown, Ohio. And I said, this could be tough, trying to beat two high school All-Americans. But the training that my dad instilled into me, Buck Carter instilled into me, started kicking in. Instead of saying, oh, I can't beat these guys, I'm thinking, how can I beat these guys? I gotta find some way to do it. It never occurred to me that I couldn't beat them sometime. It never occurred to me that I couldn't play the game. My only thought in my mind was, when am I going to be a starter? The two things, the thing that I learned from those two high school All-Americans who were very good, fast as deer, could catch anything thrown, every bit as good as I was on anything, and faster, except they made one mistake. They looked lazy. I noticed when they went out, they were so good that when the quarterback let go of that ball, they could almost tell instantly whether they could catch it or not. If they couldn't catch it, they quit running, wouldn't try to go get the ball. Coaches looked at them, and I could see the coaches over there shaking their heads and making notes. And it finally dawned on me. I said, these coaches think these guys are lazy. I said, there's my key. Old stupid Bill Andrews don't know whether he can catch that ball or not. So he's not going to quit running. I would go and I'd jump, sure enough, I'd miss the ball by a foot or whatever. But I looked like I was a hustler. And I heard two of the coaches talking around the corner as I come in one day, saying, man, that Andrews, he's a hustler. He just don't quit. I said, I've got my way in. And that was what I would do. Even when I got to the point that I could do what those boys were doing, I could tell that pass was going to be caught or not catchable or not. I still couldn't make myself not try. I would go, jump, and sure enough, I'd miss it, but I just could not quit. And the biggest thing I would tell any ball player is, don't quit. Keep going, keep trying, and go and do it. And that was exactly what I did. I just kept going. First guy on the field, last guy off. The coaches would often ask me, we had to run a mile before each season to make sure you were in good enough shape to play. You had to run it under 6 minutes. I ran it in 5 minutes and 45 seconds, 5 years in a row. I had to get a track star to lead me around. The coach would ask me, he said, how can you not run a mile, yet you will run all day long out here on the football field? And I said, as long as somebody throws a ball at me, I'll run for it. whatever you want to call it, made it happen because I just wouldn't quit. I just kept at it.
How long did it take you to realize that Woody Hayes did not like to throw the football? You weren't on there much action.
Actually, when I went up there, I didn't know anything about Woody Hayes either. Thank goodness, because my first experience with Woody Hayes scared the hell out of me. But I couldn't understand, and he didn't really throw the first year that I was there, first year as a starter. He didn't really throw it. The second year, we threw a lot. Didn't take long to figure out why. He didn't have anybody that could run the ball. He had to throw it. And that was where the record all came in and White over there. We just didn't have the running game and had to throw the ball. So it was a fortunate timing. Actually, the whole thing was fortunate. If I'd have come in 68 with that team, national champions, I'd have never seen the uniform. If I'd have been there in 58 or 59, that team won a lot. I wouldn't have seen the uniform. I happened to come in at the time Woody Hayes had the worst team of his life. And if you look at my junior year, I set the records. It's the worst record that Ohio State ever had. We were 4-5 that year. And we had to throw it, but that's all we had. So it was just a matter of luck, timing, and just plain determination. I was going to do it. One final point to that. I started with a baseball scholarship. In the winter quarter, Woody took my baseball scholarship and made it a football scholarship. I said, that's okay. I still play baseball in spring, football in fall. Spring comes around and I go to the baseball field. I turn around and there's Woody Hayes standing right behind me. Said, what do you think you're doing? I think I'm going to go play baseball. They said, nope, we play football year-round up here. And we actually got into a pretty good argument on it because I knew I was a better baseball player than I was ever going to be in football. And he finally threatened and said, I'll take away any scholarship you got if you don't get over and play football. I said, yes, sir. I just became a football player. And that was pretty much how it came about.
So, Andy, you left East Clinton, and I don't know if you thought you were going to be able to play football at West Point, but it doesn't appear that football was in your future, whether it was as a player or a coach. So when did that part of Andy Oldham's emerge that became such a successful coach? When did you decide this is something I want to do?
Well, a few people that were here, friends and family, were at the Hall of Fame induction. I got inducted in June, and I told the story. You know, I love football. Football's been great to me. It was important to my family, opened up a lot of doors for me. At Capitol, I started my first game. My sophomore year, I made the traveling team as a freshman. I only took 5 linebackers. So out of those 17 guys, I was in the top 5. Made the traveling squad, go to BW, first time I've been on house turf. It's actually baseball turf, but it was turf. And they had a shoe bank. I'm thinking, shoe bank? What's that? When you go over there, man, you get in your shoes, they give you a pair of turf shoes. I think this is amazing. So I put these old shoes on already, they care if they're old, but someone gave me shoes, it's a pretty big deal. So I'm on the kickoff team, 2 guys get hurt, I get to play the second half. We get beat 19-6. I had like 13 or 14 tackles. And that's the first time I played in basically 2 years. So after the game, I get in the shower, and I'm covered in turf burns, and I didn't know anything about turf burns. Well, I found out real quick what turf burn was. I got in the shower and I screamed. Probably said the thing I probably shouldn't have said, because I was covered in burns. So anyway, I got to play the next game. I got to start against Mount Union. And this is right before Mount Union took off and they were national champions perennial. So I'm starting against Mount Union. In the back of my mind, I thought I was good enough to play Ohio State. I was 5'10", 200 pounds. I ran a 5 40 with a strong wind behind my back. And I thought for some reason, I wouldn't tell anybody, but I thought I was good enough in my mind. And my heart was telling me, man, you can do this. So I'm starting against Mount Union, and they got these 2 tackles, 6'5", 6'6", about 265, 270. And they wore me out. And halftime, I got replaced. My best friend, Ricky Vaughn, took my spot. And I So that set my path, like, you know, maybe I'm not gonna make a career out of playing football. I'm just gonna maybe perhaps someday coach football. But by the time my senior year rolled around, I then became a starter, had a really good senior season, loved football, but I had an issue, I had something really happen to me that changed my life. My mom passed away the Thursday before we played Wittenberg my sophomore year. My brother Steve comes to Capitol, and we only had one car for this big family. The only way I could get back to Savannah was the Greyhound bus. That's the only way I got back and forth to school. My brother shows up to practice one day, and I said, man, look, my brother Steve's in practice. What are you doing here? Then he goes to precede me. Mom passed away. She worked for the senior citizens here in Wilmington. She passed away right at lunchtime. They were reading a poem about angels, and she just passed away right there. So, brother came and got me. I left practice Thursday. Friday, we're at the house doing all that thing you do, and that's the first time I really encountered someone passing away. And I thought, you know, there's somebody who just lived forever. I just didn't know anybody really had death in their family. I was too young, didn't know about death. And then Saturday came rolling around, and that was probably going to be the funeral. But the brothers and sisters said, we're not going to have the funeral on Saturday. That's game day. We're going to go watch Andy play Wittenberg. So my buddies got my pads together, brought them to Wittenberg. I got in the locker room, felt really uncomfortable, didn't want to talk to anybody. Just don't mention anything, I just want to play football. So I played football, I wasn't in a really good state of mind, I cried a lot, really emotional. Then I came back. After the game, my buddies took my pads back to Capitol and washed my stuff for me. And then Mom's funeral was on Sunday. Well, she's a Catholic and she's Italian, and you just don't bury Italian Catholics on Sunday. She got buried on Sunday. So on Monday, about noon, I'm sitting at home, and my brother looked at me and said, when are you going back to school? And I looked at Steve and Bob, and I said, I'm not going back. I'm going to take this semester off. Of course, you know what would happen if I wouldn't gone back. I would have never gone back. So my brother said, well, you got half an hour to get your stuff together. They threw me in the back of that Fury, and they drove me to Columbus and drove me off to Shaw Hall on Monday. And I went right back to school. Not much time in the morning, you know, we're guys, you know, just get back. So 2 years went by, I was starting my last year. But in that sophomore year, about 5 weeks after Mom had passed, I got my first educational experience. I was a mentor to a 4th grade boy at Bexley Elementary. He was a big bully, didn't come to school, bad attitude, broken home, just a mess. And the principal said, Andy, we're going to assign you to this little boy. And I said, what do you want me to do? Just be his friend. So I had to be this guy's friend. And of course, you know, to a 4th grader in college football player, I might as well play at High State. He thought it was big time. So I bonded with him, and I'd see him 2 or 3 times a week. And then I started bringing my football jersey to school on Friday. If he had a good week, I'd let him wear my jersey at school. Could you imagine a 4th grader wearing a college kid's jersey? Well, at the end of 6 or 7 weeks, our experience was over when the principal called me and she said, Andy, I want you to show you something. She showed me this boy's attendance. He hadn't hardly missed a day. His grades went from C's and D's to A's and B's. He was starting to become a leader at school, and she said, you changed this guy's life. She said, this kid's life will never be the same. And it was at that moment that I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And I had some very influential teachers here today. So I knew that when I graduated from Capitol, I wanted to teach. So my first job's at Madison Plains. You know about Madison Plains? They're lawful. If you're a farmer, it's good. They got a lot of good land. At the time, they're the biggest acreage in the country, or in the county, the state of Ohio. They had more cornfields than any place else. But they were all from football. Well, I get this phys ed job. I'm the very first phys ed teacher they ever hired for elementary. So back then, if you were an elementary teacher, you taught music, you taught art, and you taught phys ed. You didn't have special teachers. So they hired me. The superintendent calls me in for the last interview. And he says, Coach Old, we're so excited to have you. You're going to really help our football program. Well, little did he know, I really wasn't excited about coaching football. I was excited about teaching. Because I was going to be the first one, an elementary teacher, kindergarten through 5th grade. I had everything mapped out. It was going to be great. He talked to me for 20 minutes, and all he talked about was football. Man, it's going to be great. The football program's never going to be the same. You're going to do blah, blah, blah. And he said, welcome to the Golden Eagle family, Coach. And I said, thanks, Mr. Shoemaker. stopped me and says, well, by the way, what are you going to teach for us this year? And I knew right then that I was different. And back in the 80s, if you played sports and you coached, they didn't really care that much about what you taught. They just wanted to coach you. Well, I was weird. I was a guy, I drove my wife over to Madison Rule Elementary School before school started that year, and I had 2 baskets, and I had 35 kids gym class, and I had 5 basketballs. I'm supposed to teach basketball here. So I thought, all right, I'm going to get this masking tape, I'm going to put all over the walls, put squares in, let's get creative. I said, I was excited, it's going to be great tomorrow. I walk in, all the tape had fallen off the walls because it wouldn't stick to the concrete. I think, man, this is not a great way to start my teaching career. So that's what happened to me. It took me 13 years of coaching. The only reason I took the job at Madison Plains is because they needed a coach. I left Madison Plains. I took a year off of school, went to Indiana University, I coached baseball at Indiana University for a year, and I taught classes at IU for a year. Then I came back to Madison Plains. 2 years later, I got a phone call from Kings Mills. Kings Mills is a great football power, right? They were just as bad as Madison Plains. Kings Mills was the doormat. Once again, they wanted me to be a coach. And by the way, when I was at Madison Plains, I taught in 4 different buildings. I had a truck, a toilet truck with a cap. I put my equipment in the back of my truck, and I went from school to school to school to teach. I saw 1,000 different faces a week. It would take me 3 years to learn kids' faces, and by that time, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are already gone. And my principal downstairs said, Andy, he said, he shut the door. He said, you need to leave Madison Plains. I said, are you firing me? He said, no. He said, you're too good of a teacher to be here. So I had a chance to go to Kings Mills. Again, they thought they were getting a coach. Man, I had a jackpot. I got to work at Kings Mills, 5th and 6th grade building, and there was only one school. And after I went through the interview process, he walked me down and showed me an office. I said, I've got to go to an office. He looked at me and said, yeah, don't you normally have offices? I said, I've had a briefcase I've taught out of for 4 years, and I put it from stage. He said, I never had an office, never had a home. So that was my whole thing. So again, I'm at Kings Mills, 6 years at Plains, 7 years at Kings Mills, then the head coach. We started out, I was the defensive coordinator, we were 6-0 for the first time in school's history. And the coach before me was, we both got hired at the same time. I had a chance to go for the head coaching job. I'm thinking, man, only if they knew. They're lucky to have me as a coach, and they're asking me to be a head coach. I want nothing to do with that. That's not my thing. I want to teach. I'm talking to myself. We're 6-0. The coach comes Saturday morning for film. He gets out of his little car and looks terrible. I said, what happened? He said, I got a DUI. I said, now, this was back in the 90s. You get a DUI and educator, you're going to lose your job. You might lose your license. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I got to go tell the superintendent after practice. After school, I'm going to tell him. Because back then, if you did something wrong, it was in the newspaper. Everything's in the newspaper. He goes and tells the superintendent, I got a DUI. I said, so what's your business? He said, I expect your resignation at the end of the year. So we had a program on a Sunday, and then, by the way, we lost the next 4 games, finished 6-4. So on Monday after school, he met with the whole team, and he gets up and he tells the guys, hey, I just want you to talk about the season. He said how unfair it was that we had such a hard schedule. He said, this is not fair to you guys. This schedule is way too hard. Imagine the coach telling me that. And then he told him he has to resign. And to this day, not very many people know that story. He resigned, the kids were crying, it was a mess. I can still go to Kings Mills High School auditorium and show you around the city. Those kids came and they surrounded me and they said, Coach Jones, you're going to be the next head football coach of Kings. And I smiled and I think, oh man, that's so nice, you guys. And my heart's racing. I'm petrified. I'm scared to death. I'm thinking only if they knew that I really didn't love football as much as I wanted to be a head coach. It's just not going to work. Well, sooner or later, I get a chance to, my wife's pushing me. My pastor and I are running every morning. Marty Dennis. We're running every morning and we're praying about it. I said, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. So the athletic director sees me in the hallway. He says, hey, are you going to apply for this job? You know what I told him? I said, yeah, I think so. how excited would you be to hire someone? I said, well, you want to be the next head coach? They said, yeah, I think so. I'm not going to hire that guy. So I'm the first person they interviewed. I'm wearing the same leisure suit that I wore at East Clinton prom in 1980. Couldn't tie a tie. I had to go to Roger Barber's house. He tied my tie for me. I took the tie off and I put this suit on. It was corduroy. And it was appropriate because it was probably January. I go, it's like the Spanish Inquisition. I got 9 people sitting in this room, and they're all firing questions, 2.5 hours of questions. Not one person asked me about how I was going to win a football game. No one told me, here's a marker, get up and draw your defense, go draw your offense. All they wanted to know was that I was going to love on kids and care about kids. And I was real good at that. And that was my superpower. Now, I could connect with kids, I could get them to do incredible things. That was my thing. Drive back to Wilmington, about 40-minute drive. It's 10:30. It's the first person interview, one interview. I get home, my wife says, Mr. Darbyshire, that black director just called and said, you need to call him. He didn't care what time it was. I said, okay. I said, Mr. Darbyshire says, maybe opens. He goes, well, congratulations, you got the job if you want it. That's how I got hired on one interview. We played our first season, we were 9-1. And we only lost 11, and 11 won state championship that year. And we were ahead at 11 and 9-0 to start the game. And I'm walking up down the sideline, and I know how good they are. I got a tear running down my cheek, and they're like, gosh, we're going to beat 11. We're going to beat 11. They reeled off 42 points in the 11 and beat us 42-9. Then we finished 9-1. Then we took 4 teams to the playoff. We finished 5th behind Miami Trace. So my big thing with football was, my thing with football was really a God thing. It was a God thing, and I like God needs, God, like you can make a deal with God. You can promise, like God, if you give me the check, I'll do that. God doesn't need business, He doesn't need deals like that. I'm just here to tell you. So I said, God, I don't want to fail. Don't let me get embarrassed, is what I actually prayed about. And the rest is history. We were 9-1, 21 season. We had 1 losing season. And truth be told, that was my favorite season. We were 3-7, starting 5 freshmen. And we were 2 or 3 games we could have, maybe should have won. But my big thing was just being influenced and probably more of an educator. And I knew that's why people say, how, you won all these championships and these Hall of Fames, how, don't you miss football? I miss the kids. I spent 21 years worrying more about the games we lost than celebrating the wins we won. And it didn't make sense to me until I read a book called Twin Thieves by Jake Lucas and Steve Jones. The Twin Thieves are fear of failure and fear of what people would say to you after you lost the game, after you failed. Every Friday before we play a game, I'd get my kids in physics classes. I remember playing the Loveland Tigers, and I'd get in here, beat Loveland all 3, 1, 2, 3, beat Loveland, and they would all cheer. We got beat on a Friday night, and I came back to school just hiding from people. I didn't want teachers to ask me what happened on Friday night. And in class, and this little girl raised her hand. She says, Coach Jones. She goes, I saw you at the football game Friday night. I said, yeah. She goes, what were you doing on the sidelines? And then it hit me. She had no idea I was coaching. What am I fearing? You know what I mean? It wasn't that big a deal. So I gave you a little information, but I think the people in here, I got a lot of influence, a lot of teachers and friends in here that, I love football. I'm grateful for football, but football is just something that I did. I'm still teaching. I'm starting my 40th year in education. Even though I retired from football, I'm still subbing. And now I know why these guys coaching are really old. They're like 79 or 80 years, they still want to coach. And I never understood why. They do that because they feel the same way about football as what I do about education. I don't know if I'll ever stop teaching. Being paid's terrible. Man, kids are awesome. Kids are wonderful. And that's kind of my deal. And I remember the teachers that are sitting here today all the time. The time they took and reported to me football is a great way to reach people, but education, for me, it's been a blessing to be a teacher. So that's kind of the story.
All right. Anybody out here have any questions for any of these guys? John Patton.
Andy, I was in a season ticket holder with Bengals for a long time. It's a thrill when you went in the Hall of Fame and down on the field there. I started crying, man. In Clinton County, boy, that was proud of it.
Yeah.
Billy Ray, in 1966, I was in the Air Force, reserves, Laughlin Air Force Base, and shipped us up to Rancho Air Force Base in Illinois. You played, I went over to Champaign, got tickets, sat right in the middle of the Illinois section, and he made one of the greatest catches I ever saw. Dived right in front of me. I stood up, and all these Illinois people, Illinois, I'm sorry, stood up, and I said, Clinton County, baby! Who the hell is this guy? And that was a great catch, Billy. You remember that catch?
No.
It was great. I watched him out here, right here, Townsend Field, when he was with the Bengals. So, anyway, Big Daddy, I grew up with Big Daddy. He and I walked. He lived on Thorn Avenue, I lived on Lake Street. We walked the main road to school. Miss Mills, the principal there, she had a board of education. Mike got it, and I got it. Wow. So, but Mike and I grew up together, and then I got to play football with him, and that was a thrill. We had the greatest coach, Wilmington, and he was a great coach. A great influence on both of us, all of us. He loved us all, and we all love you, Mike. But thrilled that I watched you play for the Bengals when you got drafted. I had a mind, but you had a heck of a game. They just wouldn't give you a chance then. You blocked everybody. I was keeping you out. It was a thrill to grow up with you, Mike. You're still my friend today.
I got a question for Billy. I'm probably going to ask more questions than anybody, but the Ohio State Michigan rivalry. Kind of give us a sense, a good story about
Yes, I have.
how intense it is.
There's lots of good stories on that one. It drove Woody Hayes nuts, is what it did. You're allowed to take 40 boys on the road up to Michigan. So the first thing he would do was be call up there and make a reservation. And then he'd make 50 more reservations all over the area around Ann Arbor up there. He would take and go up, and then we would get on a bus and ride around for a couple of hours till he found a little motel somewhere out in nowhere, and he'd say, okay, stop here, and we'd get off, and that's where we would go. He was trying his best to keep them from knowing where we were. We did this 2 out of the 3 years I was up there. By 9 o'clock, we have our skull session meeting before the game. Yeah, knock on the door open, and Coach of Michigan would step in and say, welcome to Michigan, Woody. And Woody would tear that room up. Get to that door before that guy could run off. There we go. And then we were sitting, and this is the hardest thing I found to do on that. The reason he took 2 extra guys to Michigan, we're sitting there, coach is up here on the board, and he's giving the game plan. In Woody's case, he's just marking the chalkboard so you can't see anything. But 2 extra guys, and the whole job was to go over here on the lavatory at the toilets and flush the toilets. Now you're sitting there listening to Woody Hayes, dead serious in his play, and all you hear is ka-chooch, ka-chooch, ka-chooch. He thought the room was bugged. He wanted them to flush toilets so they couldn't hear what he was doing. Didn't make any difference that he had the same game plan for 15 years. They had to bug the room to know what it was. But he was absolutely living on Michigan. From day one, we practiced against Michigan. I remember the first game we went to was actually Southern Methodist or something out in Texas. I didn't even know where we were going because we've been practicing against Michigan the whole time. Never knew where we were going for the first game. And that was Woody. He hated Michigan.
Anybody else? Yes, Dick.
With that, how often, we had a whole lot of savings.
How often what?
Had a whole lot of savings. How often in your career did you bring up $100,000 82%.
I don't know, for a game, everybody got to get used up a little bit. And you wanna try to take the pass where they normally would be. Sometimes you walking on the sideline, you get the field. But, you had to be ready to play. Like, you weren't ready to go to battle, get you behind. So you get prepared for it before you come out to do battle. Just, coaches usually get us about it. I never played for somebody like the 80s, but gambling the fall around, get run. Some of the coaches that I had, generally, get run one that Ray held like he crushed out and tried to whip it. And the man so large he couldn't sleep. On plane, he was on plane, he was so big, he couldn't hardly sleep. But I respected the man that would call another man in order as a coach. But this guy was raised in practice and everything. Everyone jumped right on him, like he was very whooping. But all around, he was a coach that really very hard to get credit to say anything. That he could look at you and really get you in order. You know something that he didn't like it because he kept on doing it. I remember the boy Dallas, who was wide receiver. He would go for ball and really try hard to catch the ball and throw to him. Next thing you know, he was packing bags. So you would watch pretty much every day for programs. You had to produce what you don't. So, what I really liked, coming from Dayton and then coming back home to training camp, that was kind of really an experience to come home and be in programs. But it goes with the territory. You got to get prepared to go on that level. But basically, nowadays, money is involved, and which you have to really do, prepare yourself to get to the programs. It's amazing the money that's in sports now. It's really exorbitant. I have a nephew, was 231, I don't know if you've been out there where you saw it. It's been sold and redone out of the house. Produced about, I think about Quentin Roberts come out of there. Quentin, getting out there and running Greenville. Figured that all of these kids did well from an upbringing of mix on myself. And it really pays off still. Work ethic with the children. Bless them and to go along, support them. I remember being young cat being friends, all I can remember back, maybe middle school. My dad and friends, all together. But it takes friends like that. I got a chance to play your level ranks. I took them right along with me. Let them know part of you was out there to elevate me to the point where I was able to get selected. So part of my success was right here for one in Ohio. Teams I played with the guys in school, coming unbetter.
blue sock and was about to put the other one on, and Woody Hayes walked by. And he says, "Are you gonna get your ankles taped?" And it's one of those questions, you know, like your parents ask you, you know you're in trouble, but you're not sure why. And I looked up at it and I said, "No, there's nothing wrong with my ankles." I thought only guys that had bad ankles got their ankles taped. It never occurred to me that the whole team had bad ankles. Everybody got their ankles taped. So he said, "Get your blank up to the training room." The training room is upstairs, another floor. In 3.5 years, I'd never been in the training room either. So when I went up to the training room, they have a different set of guys up there that just do nothing to tape their ankles. Well, they'd never seen me. They thought I was an imposter trying to sneak on the team. They called the security guards in there, and they're carrying me out of there. And I'm yelling, "Get Coach Hayes, get Coach Hayes." Finally, one of them said, "Well, maybe we ought to ask him. He sounds like he's a little serious." So they go get Coach Hayes, and he comes in there and he says, "You don't know who this is?" And that everybody said, "No." I looked at him and said, "I've never been in here, Coach." And one of the other things that I heard a lot of, besides that you never played this game before, was only you Banders. Because I was the only one that did a lot of things that nobody else did. So we had to talk to guards, and I was their starting left end on that team. And I had my ankles taped the first time before I went out on the field. Then I had to relearn how to run with my ankles taped, because it's totally different and hard to do. So then I was finally fully and properly dressed to go play football. 3.5 years later.
Larry, did you have the same question as that?
And not the same question, but I got a question for Andy. You played football with Dan Shirley at Capital?
I did.
What was it like playing with him?
Dan Maserli was a psycho. Okay? He was a wrestler. And part of the reason why he's so successful at Clint Massey is because he created a wrestling program. I'll take that to my grave. So, he played early on. He was from West Jeff. He was a really good player. There was a legend, little folklore going around about him. He was such a good wrestler. He wrestled this guy from Washington Wrestling, Victor Kales. Victor Kales was like 6'5", 6'6". Then Shirley's 5'9". You know, back then he's about 265. He's still pretty round. You know, not quite like he is now, but he could run. But Dan only knew one speed, and he wrestled this Victor Kales and just smashed him. And then, so that was, we all heard that through the grapevine. But Dan played a lot earlier than me. But Dan ended up being a defensive lineman in front of me. I played linebacker right behind him. So of course, when Dan, in fact, the defense was kind of created for me because we'd run a 5-man front, we'd leave the center uncovered, and we'd cover up both the guard and tackle on the backside, because they didn't run 2 tight ends back then. Well, that left me completely covered up, which means I just run and make tackles. So when Dan was doing a really good job, it would take 2 people to block him, it would free me up. And he was really good high school football player. And he knew one speed. So the same way he coaches, the same way he played. You got the same guy. Hey, great question.
Any other questions?
Got another one for Billy Ray. Did your good friend Austin play in those pickup games?
He played in basketball pickup games.
Did he play any football?
No, he didn't. I don't remember Hoss playing football at all. It was a little bit too fast for him. He didn't move real quick. At that time, he was 250 pounds, so he didn't move too quick. Good blocker, but I don't remember him playing. We usually had the older boys, Kevin Haynes, and that bunch, Art Wilson, some of those guys who played with us.
Can one of you give Mike a microphone? Now, I don't know how this came about, but you were a fullback and also played on the offensive line at Wilmington, correct? Or were you primarily a fullback?
Here at Wilmington High School, we had defensive lineman.
Okay, so when you went to Dayton, did you think you maybe run the ball there, or how is that? Because, you know, some people, when they can't run the ball, well, I don't want to do
I
this.
was, at that time, they had blocking back, was pretty much the norm, for a lot of colleges, so I was really a blocking back. I didn't care very much, and, I went to the pros, that's why I went as blocking back. But, we had passing drills, and I went out for a pass, and, it turned in and the ball stuck in my helmet. I knew I was going to be there long before I was in the backfield. Brown said, just go on tomorrow and go down with the offensive line.
I saw him one of the days watching play a lot. He would come around in, the backs would be behind him, he would knock those guys in the next week. And I saw him get down, in the track or welcome stage. This guy could block. He was a blocker.
So that ball that hit you in the helmet, did you think, well, John Patton would never let that happen to him?
No,
Don't say that, guy.
if you got in the road, he was fair trade. So, but, that's how I got in the blocking back the day. Maybe that's about sending back there. And I carried the ball every now and then, basically I was a blocking back. But, it took me a while when I went to the Bengals and got to the offensive line. Totally, a little bit different catch on, so I took a whooping for a while, and then, once I learned what the offensive line can do, I started issuing out to the punishment. So it takes a while to be able to give it back. So by the time I got to Canada, I knew what I was doing. So a couple of years, they had me down, the best up there. So it paid off, but it was a journey of learning. Switcher, I was somewhat smaller, but I stayed in the weight room and made up a little strength. And I had quickness. That was my forte, being beat you to the punch and then get off of it and let you react. So I learned how to pick up things along the way to help your own self. So it's like get able to handle your job best we can. Sometimes you have to use some tricks, but as long as it's legal, you operate that way. Nowadays, most linemen are 6'8", almost 300 pounds. You wonder how in the world they can continue to play with that kind of size and strength. But they had the attitude back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, you had to stop the play for the physical punishment that would go out on.
I remember Mike, when we started a little knock-over baseball up at the alumni field there. Right, we had home plate right in the corner, close to Mike's house. Right in the corner where you go to the alumni field now. Mike hit a ball clear down my house, way down the corner. I lived down there by the tennis courts all over the street, and he got a triple out. All of a sudden, that probably was going out across the field. Big Daddy got his first miss a little bit later. He wasn't very fast back then. Remember that, Mike? No.
Watching you guys, man. You be headed towards line of scrimmage, you lucky to stop me behind you.
Right.
There was like, just nowhere to go. You hit that line, lucky to take it.
The 1-2 punch. Business has been going a while, but here you go. You just get it. You show out. It was fun. High school years. We had a good team, and we appreciate one another. And when you do that, we have a good team. All four of the same boat. You have a good team. cousins. We know he did a great job at Ohio State, and he got hurt in the world. She's one of the NFL church where he got hurt. But he had an outstanding career here in Farmington and Ohio State. Something else. Hope that this meeting operation goes well. You come out of it okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Can I tell a story, real quick story? I can't talk about that, I'm sure, but, I find it interesting that since Big Daddy brings up, Gary Williams, as many of you know, I was a sports editor at the newsroom back when Gary was playing, and, I find it amazing that one summer I wanted to write a story about Gary Williams, because he was on the threshold of breaking the career receiving record at Ohio State. From Clinton County. Of course, whose record was he going to break? Billy Andrews, for most receptions in his career. I think he had like 108 or something like that. I think they test that many in a year now. I know that. But anyway, the story is I did a feature talked to Billy, I talked to Buck Carter, I talked to Snow, I talked to all those guys about him playing basketball and all that. And I called Woody Hayes. And he was obviously still a coach. They actually, that was after he got fired. He still had an office in the Armory at Ohio State. And I called him up, talked to the secretary. I said, could you have Mr. Hayes, Coach Hayes, call me back? Because I'm doing a story about Billy Andrews. I want you to talk about Billy Andrews. And Gary Williams, too, for that, because he recruited Gary. So anyway, I'm at the newsroom, doing my thing. Phone rings. Operator says, is this thing done? Yes, it is. Would you accept and collect phone calls from Woody Hayes? I said, yes, I will accept it. I'll take it and finish my story.
Billy Ray, did Woody come down to Savannah to recruit you?
Yeah, when Bill Snow, Bobby Hoover, and I were asked to give a speech, and I'm not sure where it was at, but somewhere in this area. I had to go ask Woody for permission to go do that. And Woody said, oh yeah, go ahead. So I said, okay, and I went driving a 62 Volkswagen convertible at the time. I went out and got in the car, and there sat Woody in the passenger seat. He was going with me, and I didn't know it until I got in that car. He came down and had a ball speaking. Bill and Bobby and I, Woody got up and spoke. He spoke about an hour. But total surprise, and that's nerve-wracking when you got to ride that car so long with Woody in that close quarters.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. How about a hand for these? They're legends.
Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed this evening's program. Let's give another round of applause to these gentlemen for coming. So we'll have an opportunity if you want to grab a photo here in a little bit. I just wanted to get a group photo with you guys, so just hang out right here. Next month's program is going to be set on September 18th, and it is going to feature Rob Butcher. We are maybe going to be having some other people, but Rob has generously offered to come up from Kentucky, and he is going to talk all about his baseball career. So that'll be a really fun one to tune into, September 18th. I know many of you have been attending these programs, but for somebody that hasn't, as a result of our Beyond the Scoreboard exhibit at the museum, we have found that the Clinton County History Center does not have a very good sports or kind of education memorabilia collection in the museum. So when we did the exhibit, we didn't have a lot of varsity jackets, we didn't have cheerleading uniforms, we were kind of like to donate to the History Center, please reach out to me, and we would be more than happy to accept a donation or to do it on loan for the rest of the year, because the exhibit will be on display through December of this year. I know many of you in the crowd have already reached out to me, and thank you so much for your participation through that exhibit. I am pleased to announce to you guys, you're the first to hear, that the exhibit was the recipient of an Ohio Local History Alliance Outstanding Achievement Award in Exhibits and Displays for the state of Ohio. So we are very, very excited about that award, and we will be receiving that officially during the state conference in October. As I mentioned, it is on display through December. The paper that you have received tonight, you are welcome to bring that back, and you'll get free entrance into the exhibit. And then we hope you'll join us next month. We have some others in the works. Mark and I are trying to pick some other dates, but right now September 18th is our next one. And then we have future events like Talking Tombstones coming up on October 12th. So if you'd like to talk to me more about membership or about what the History Center does, please reach out or talk to me tonight. Be happy to answer those questions. And let's give these guys one more round of applause.